Yeah, everything's rolling, man. Let's freaking get into it. So, Clay Millican, guys, the guy hardly needs any introduction here. He's top fuel driver. He's been doing this for probably longer than I've been alive.
Close.
Yeah.
This is year number 26 in a top fuel car.
Okay, I'm 28, so
yeah, close.
You've been in top fuel cars since I was 2 years old.
Yeah, it's crazy for me to think about that it's been that long, but at the same time, it seems like nothing. You know, it's wild. I still get excited about it. It just still charges me up, and every day, you know, I have race car on the brain every single day.
That's so cool. There's no, 26 years of no burnout, which is, I'm sure there's been burnout here and there, but to still be pushing for it the way that you do is so cool to see, because, you know, it's a grueling hobby not a hobby, but it's a grueling industry to be in. To continue on with that same amount of push for that time is awesome.
Lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. And I have said this many times and still holds true. After all these years, by far the worst part is the travel. Mm-hmm. The more I do it, the more cranky it makes me. I was just telling you before we went live, you know, it's a long drive down here. I prefer driving, but there are times where it just doesn't make sense. You know, I mean, if we're racing in Sonoma, California, I'm not doing that.
No shot.
I will be frustrated, get mad at people that don't know how to fly. You know, Donna calls me a plane snob because I do it so much. It's like, why is it so hard to find your seat and put your bag in overhead? It's not that hard.
I know.
And this is right down your alley. I think the airlines are doing it wrong. They should charge you for bringing your bag on the plane. They should charge you for that.
Yeah.
That
Free
way
to put it under.
Yes.
Charge you. Yeah, that would be a great reverse of that, because
people would get on the plane and sit down.
Yeah, find your seat. I mean, I haven't flown in a little while, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I haven't flown in a little while, so I haven't gotten that pain, but I've only heard it's gotten worse and worse in the last year or two.
It's terrible.
It's just horrible now. So before we get too far into it, so you're down here for the Superstar Shootout, which is the first time that Bradenton is having top fuel in, I don't know, 10, 15 years, something around there. But of course, top fuel is different now than it was ever. So I would say it's probably the first time top fuel has ever really invaded Bradenton. Funny car, Nitro methane's going to be on property. Pro Stock's going to be there. It's $1.3 million in payouts at Bradenton this weekend, February 8th to 10th. Victor has probably the most insane event that we will ever see at Bradenton going on right now.
It is definitely a one-of-a-kind event. I mean, because it's not an NHRA event. The majority of these cars you will only see at NHRA national events. And, you know, it's the Pro Superstar Shootout. And why it's called Pro is it was put together by the Professional Racer Organization. Okay. And what that is basically is we, as a group of pro racers, it is our voice to NHRA. Instead of having 60 racers going and griping to the NHRA about whatever the issue is, we go to Pro, and
so it's
they
like a board of you guys that people trust to be the voice.
Yep.
And is that an elected position, or is it kind of just like?
It is. It's also a paid membership. We pay to be part of the PRO, and Pro wanted to basically let's have our own race, and every year forever. They've held their own test session. So basically, they made the decision, and it's a pretty brave one to let's put up a lot of money and let's race for it and sell tickets. And Bradenton was the perfect spot. Obviously, Pro reached out to Wes Buck and Victor. They're definitely tight with the World Series of Pro Mod, all the things that they do together.
Legendary promoters. They obviously understand what's going on. It's hard to think of anybody else to come to with that idea. And
it's $250,000 to win top fuel, but it's winner take all. I mean, it's pretty cutthroat.
No split.
No, well, who knows about that? I mean,
they try to keep the split
quiet.
Quiet,
and that even happens. And it's funny. I listen to everything you do, and I watch most of the crazy posts you make. We know that happens in the big money bracket racing, but you don't really hear that much about it. And during a PRO meeting that I was a part of, and I don't participate in all of them because I'm not part of the elected board, but when they talked about the 250 winner take all, some of the guys were like, man, I don't know, we're going to go spend all that money, and do this race. And Antron Brown and myself were really the only two that understood the split. And so we said something about it. They're like, what are you talking about? And it's like, well, when you get to the final, you could, race for 25 grand.
Go up,
and,
talk to the guy, and you're like, hey, do a 50-50, do 25, 75, something around there,
Right.
I get that, but it's now, so is that not a thing in normal Top Fuel? No split?
Absolutely
That's like
not. No.
Interesting.
No,
so
it's not.
Of course, like how you're saying those guys didn't understand the split. I don't understand the lack of the gentleman split, I guess.
Yeah.
That you can't just go up to the guy and be like, hey.
And it's just... It would not surprise me at all if there is no split. I mean, it really, really wouldn't, because these guys, the majority of them, there's very few of them that this is what they do for a living. Mm-hmm. I'm one of the few that, I do this for a living. And a lot of those guys, they're like, we're spending all this money anyway. I'm not splitting nothing. I'm going to take my chances.
So a large percentage of them actually don't do this for a living?
Yeah.
I always assumed that level is like, that's your full-time gig.
Yep.
But it's really not. It's like
not all of them, no. I mean, I'll give you a quick rundown of a few. So Doug Kalita just won the World Championship. Mm-hmm. His uncle owns Kalita Air. Doug owns Kalita Charters. So they have a huge airline. I mean, Connie Kalita's Doug's uncle, and he owns more 747s than anybody in the world. So there's one. This is his hobby.
I was going to say, I'd imagine that business probably runs pretty well, and he gets to go do some racing. When you have a business that size, it probably, you got the right people in place where you can go enjoy some racing.
Steve Torrance is another one that, his whole family, they go racing together, and he's won the championship, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 times, whatever it is.
Oh, wow.
They put in pipelines. So, that's what they do. Now, there are, obviously several of the guys work for these large teams, and that is their job. Sean Langdon drives for Kalita Air, so that's his full-time job. Antron is one that does it for a living. He now owns the team. It's just kind of varies.
And that's a fairly recent.
It is. Few years, probably 2 years. Antron, bought the team from Don Schumacher, and so there's a few of them. I shouldn't say the majority of them, but a lot of them have other interests and have other income.
I would imagine that probably makes racing a little less stressful having another income.
Which also tells you that I'm not very smart.
It just tells me that you're all in.
I'm all in.
You're all in.
It has to work. It has to work or the lights get turned off. That's all there is to it. I have to make this work somehow, some way, and...
Which probably leads to you being so friendly with your sponsors because they know, like, this guy's all in. Some of these sponsors, nothing against another team, but, like, those guys can disappear overnight and they're fine. They don't care. Like,
we see it happen.
You're in this. You're not disappearing overnight. Like,
they're getting their social media posts from me. That's for sure. And a lot of the teams, that's another thing. You know what? This is not a brag. It's just a fact. A lot of those people have social media teams.
Yeah.
We have me because I like doing it. I enjoy doing it. And, so the sponsors also know that. Those posts are coming right from the old iPhone.
Yeah. And I bet you those social media teams are begging for their drivers and team owners and whoever else is on that team to be posting like you do because you can't fake authenticity on social media. And your connection with the people is obviously unmatched to what a team can do. Yep. It's just, it feels like you have that feeling of disconnect where with you, a direct message to your Instagram is going right to you, or a comment is going right to you.
Yeah, and some of those
comments... There's no buffer zone.
There's no buffer, and some of those comments will hurt your feelings.
Oh, of course. That's part of the fun, though.
It is, and you're really good at that. I mean, some of the stuff I know you posted up there just to get those reactions, and I read some of them sometimes. I'm like, oh, my goodness,
I've been doing this so long that the thick skin is like an alligator skin at this point where it's kind of just... It is what it is. I always attest that to my dad, though, because even before social media was a thing, he was like, the thick skin and things rolling off your back, it didn't bother him. Yeah. I mean, he ran a business his whole life that people took advantage of him every chance they got, and he just...
roll with it.
Yeah, he was just like, all right, whatever. So it kind of comes to that. But social media, I think is inherently needed, but then I'm sure some of these other drivers make it a little more sensitive.
Yeah.
If they dove into it too much.
I'll tell the truth, like I can bust my butt on a YouTube video and, you read 40 comments in a row that's like, man, this is so awesome. Then you'll get that one and it's like, oh, and sometimes I will give in and respond. I don't never blast anybody, but I might make a little response. And it's like, dude, you just read 40 great posts. Yeah. And my sisters, they'll get up on the tire and maybe answer some of those sometimes, It's like, I think people may do that sometimes just to make you respond. I don't know,
Well, also for you, like, for a lot of these people, you're the guy on the TV. That's that's big time,
right.
I'm not the guy on the TV. I'm never on NHRA sitting there with Brian Loans getting interviewed up on a stage with the big sponsors, what is it now, Mission sponsor and stuff. That's like to some people, they see that as like, oh, he's not even looking at this. Like he's so big time, and it is that, but it's also not that because drag racing's like a tight-knit little community.
It is. It's so small, and it is funny to me how different even drag racing, as tight-knit as it is. I've got a bunch of stories about how much different the crowd is. Mm-hmm. It's weird to me. So a quick example of that, Jeff Lutz and I are like best of buddies. He's one of my best friends, and we did an event together. He and I went to England, and I spoke at the British Drag Racing Hall of Fame. This has been several years ago. And
that was the thing.
Yeah. So, we went there. It was right after the race season. So we fly over there, and a lot of the people at the Hall of Fame did not know who Jeff was, even though he's a superstar on television, here especially, maybe not over there so much, but... So we had a free day where we could go do anything we wanted to do. One of the things that most people did, they go see Big Ben, they go do whatever. We're in England. Well, Jeff and I wanted to go see Santa Pod. That's like we're here. We may never be here again. And God, this is a long story. I'll make short. So we go see the racetrack. It's incredible. They actually were resurfacing it. And the history there, I know you're a big history guy. The history there is incredible. It was... I can't remember the exact number, but let's say there's actually a historical sign there. It was something along the line of 1,000 people left that runway and never came back. It was
World War II.
Yeah, World War II.
Because that's how it started. It became a runway for World War II.
Yeah.
Because all hands on deck type of situation.
Right.
Wow, that's crazy.
So we check out the racetrack. It was incredible, and we find out along the way that there's a roadkill event going on not too awful far away. There's a car show event. And so we go there. We're like going to check it out. I'm buddies with David Freiberger. He's there. So it's like we're in England. We're spending the day, We pull up, get out of the car. Almost nobody knew me, but everybody attacked Jeff. That's kind of my story about how much difference there is in drag racing.
Yeah, we all do the same thing. We all let off the same button.
Yeah.
But the fan overlap is so weird because even lately I've started to get into Pro Mod more. But 3 years ago, Cooper didn't care about Pro Mod at all. He was like, that's stupid. I want to see radial tires. Now I'm kind of venturing into Pro Mod and then even more into Top Fuel because it's kind of like the steps up almost, and the fan overlap as it changes is so different. Like the guy that's on that starting line for a big money, no time grudge race does not know anything about, a bracket race or a street car event at all. Like the overlap is so crazy.
It really is. I mean, I love interacting with all of it. I mean, I do. It's just, I am a car guy through and through and through, and on the way over here, I was kind of laughing to myself, about the, you being a small tire radial guy, and, there's a little bit of all the big floppy tire thing,
It's fired up right now.
Oh, it is.
Donald Long has poked at that as much as humanly possible.
Yeah, and I even saw you posting about everybody should go follow Brett LaSalla. Am I saying the name right, Brett LaSalla?
Yeah.
you know, and what he's done is incredible. And, you know, there was kind of like this little building thing, which had nothing to do with Brett or Jeff, you know, who's going to, you know, get overall.
Yeah, there's no beef there between them.
But people are, you know, big tires, you know, floppy tires and radials, you know, whatever, you know. And so I just love that it's bringing different communities together, you know, and it makes people follow different things, you know. For me, it's just race cars.
It is really insane, though, the difference in those two cars to be in the same conversation in general. Obviously, those two guys, you know, you put them together long enough, they're going to be best friends because that's how it goes.
Yeah.
But then everybody else around them is just swirling about the big tire, small tire beef, which is hilarious, and it's great for racing. It's good. I would love to see I think Donald's even putting together a race where it's going to be an all-run, bring your big tire, bring your small tire type of thing.
Set the 8th mile record kind of deal, yeah.
So that'll be a cool thing to see where it can actually culminate like the fire into an actual put people in the seats event, not just like fighting on Facebook.
Right. Donald's the king of that.
He's great at people fighting on Facebook.
He really is. He is not afraid to say anything, even more so maybe than you, because he will just flat call people out, you know?
Oh, yeah. He's got some age on me, so maybe I'll get there. I'll give it some time. And then, I'll eventually get to that level of just not caring at all.
Not caring. Call the name. Call him out.
By name. And he's trying to fill seats.
Oh, and he does.
I'm not trying to do. I've said that to people before. I'm like, I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to promote an event or anything. So I do this because I like to hate on things. But sometimes things need to be called out here and there. So I can't blame Donald for that.
No, and I promise you, there are times where, because of being, you know, making a living with the sponsors, I can't call things out sometimes that I would love to.
I know. I've had some people on here before that once I hit stop recording,
they'll unload on,
this guy
said this guy said that, you know.
They keep a running list of things that they wanted to say that they couldn't.
Right.
And it's funny because I try to keep the opposite, where if I can't say it, I'm not interested in that. But Top Fuel down in Bradenton, are you concerned at all about running at Bradenton? I know that there's some like, it's a little shorter. It's still a long track. It
is pretty short, actually.
But it's shorter than what you guys normally are used to.
It is pretty short. I can't remember exactly, but during some of all these meetings leading up to this, so Pomona, California, which is, you know, super famous, whatever, it's pretty short. Like, you better have the chutes out, and you better be ready.
What does it end to? Like, is it got a net, or does it have
sand, then a net, then nothing? Okay. Like, it's bad. You know, you don't want to go past the net.
Yeah.
And I think Bradenton, I don't remember the number exactly. Call it another 100 feet, 140 feet,
I think it's
whatever.
3,700 feet from starting line to where, shit's going
to
wrong.
The strawberry field?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes pepper, depending on what time of year you hit it.
Right. I will tell the truth. I came down and drove in the 2.4 hours of Les Mullets, and I haven't been to the track here in a long time, and I might have walked over and checked it out, because I did, you know, and I will... Obviously, I'm here several days early, and I will continue to look things over. And, you know, as much as drag racing is my tagline, stomp on that loud pedal and just go, there are things that we have to do sometimes, you know, just to be prepared. And, you know, the more you look at it, the better. But I have actually raced a Top Fuel, not raced, I have driven a Top Fuel car at Bradenton. It's probably been 20 years ago.
Okay.
Some testing we did for MSD. Some ignition changes they made, and they actually hired us to come, and we did it down here.
Okay.
And digging way back, I won an IHRA national event here in a class called Modified Eliminator. My second ever national event win was here at Bradenton. So I have a little history down there.
Was that still in a funny car, Top Fuel?
That was it was a Super Comp dragster, just call it.
Okay.
So it was a 7-second dragster.
Yeah, so it's still a long, skinny car.
Skinny car, yeah.
But just a little less power.
A little less power.
a little less power, a little less clutching.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you're already used to it, but it was a thing that I saw come up quite a few times, was people that don't drive any car were concerned about the distance. And you only go 1,000 feet now, so you get a little bit more runway there.
Made a huge difference. You know, that's always, I see it constantly on especially YouTube, whatever. You know, it ain't the same, blah, 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 blah. And the truth is, it's better racing. The cars are closer, and 320 feet is a huge amount of stopping room. Yeah. It's at 300 miles an hour, you're going a football field a second.
And how long has it been 1,000 feet now? It's
like 12 years or something. I know. I feel like
people need to give up on that at some point.
They need to give up on it.
Because aren't you guys going just as fast now?
We're going faster.
Faster to the 1,000 feet. Yeah. They're not going to suddenly add that 300 feet back.
No.
It would be insane. No. It wouldn't even make sense.
And I would be willing to bet a lot of money if you turn, I don't know how you do it. Let's just say you turn the scoreboards off and you tell everybody you're racing a quarter mile. They wouldn't know the difference because you're covering that last 320 feet so fast.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Like those things are just picking up speed through there. But you probably gain some reliability, but I guess not even because once you start going just as fast.
Yep, you're still pushing it to the limit. The crew chiefs figure out how to make it be done at 1,000 feet. Yeah. You know, it's incredible, you know, how much acceleration these things have. And I mean, we just had the first car go 300 miles an hour in eighth this past season. 300 miles an hour in eighth mile.
That just doesn't even, like, that's like unfathomable speed.
Yeah.
To a small tire racer like myself, where I'm, you know, 180 is like good in the quarter mile for me.
Yeah.
to talk about 300 in the eighth is like completely different worlds almost.
These things are, you know, you kind of mentioned this a little earlier, you know, me hopping in Donna's SRT Durango feels slow to me. It's like two different worlds. Like when I get in a street car or something else, I'm like, man, this thing's pretty fast because it's just. They're not on the same scale. You know, it's just such a different deal.
And those are obviously so completely different, the way that they leave and everything.
They're violent.
So like, you know, I would go back to like Antron driving in he was driving Fred, the radial tire car, and he seemed to really enjoy driving that because it's a different
world.
Different world. Like a radial tire car where it just hooks and goes is so different than a car where you're. Obviously, I don't understand it well. I can botch it, but kind of slipping the clutches and wadding up the tire is such a different experience than a radial tire car.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I've never driven a radial tire car, you know, and I do know this. Walking on the starting line at Bradenton, I'm like, man, we couldn't get a top fuel car down that. And actually, back to Jeff and Brett, I know Jeff has struggled all week with the radial prep. You know, they're out there right now scraping the entire racetrack at Bradenton because Wade does such an amazing job, and y'all have so many radial tire events here.
I saw the video. They were at 1,000 feet scraping.
Yes.
Him and Kurt, I think it was.
Yep. Yeah, Kurt Johnson.
1,000 feet, they're still scraping. I'm like, holy crap. And you guys are going to put so much rubber back down.
Oh, yeah.
Throughout the week.
But it is no prep compared to what the radial tires, you know, I'm kind of getting off the subject of Antron driving a radial car. But it's so much different. You know, I think a lot of people just assume, you know, we're racing on a track that'll rip your shoes off, and we're not. You know, the big floppy tire needs that wheel speed, and that's how, you know, over the years it's evolved into that. And NHRA has taken away prep over time to slow the cars down, to be honest with you. But the crew chiefs just figure out how to continue to make them go. You know, somehow, some way, that's what they do.
Well, sometimes I always worry, like, doing things like that only ever end up hurting the less advanced teams. You know what I mean? Like, NASCAR kind of goes through the same stuff where they're like, they add these rules, but then it only hurts the low budget teams.
Right.
Because, like, you know, the
testing,
the speed of how you can get how quick you can get the tires off and stuff like that. NASCAR is always fighting. But then the teams with the big budget just adapt quickly and they have the leg up again.
They go testing, you know, and a lot of times, you know, this is just like who's got the money to go test what's the latest rule. Like right now, we're coming into a season right now where the NHRA's changed the thickness of the tubing on the front half of the top fuel cars. We went from a 0.49 to an 0.58. So the cars are, in theory, should not flex as well. So they shouldn't, which flexing is
Just
how
by
the
making the front tires a little, the tube?
all the tubing thicker.
Oh, the tubing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at the video.
Yeah,
so
no.
everybody knows how the cars arch.
Yep.
You know, the top fuel cars do this going down the racetrack. So it's putting the load on the rear tire. So now the front end's going to be stiffer, so maybe it won't arch as much.
Okay. Do they allow you to test as much as you want, or do
Test
they?
all you want.
Okay, because I feel like some sanctioning races, they don't allow the cars to test as much to try to rein in budgets.
At one point, NHRA did that, but they've now they allow you to test all you want. But the truth is, you can waste your time testing if you do it by yourself. I mean, to explain that a little bit, let's say we go to South Georgia Motorsports Park. I don't want to say Bradenton because they're prepping that the way we're used to being prepped. But let's just say we went there by ourselves and we go out there and just fly. We absolutely are running incredible numbers. Well, with nobody there to compare it to, you really don't know is that good or bad.
Yeah, on the same prep.
On the same prep, the same day. So the majority of the NHRA teams test on Mondays after the event. Same prep, the track's still kind of similar, and usually more than one car tests. So on the flip side of running good, let's say you are just smoking the tires, you can't get down the racetrack. Well, if there's nobody there, is it you or is it the track? So almost always there's more than one car testing. You know, the teams, for as much as we battle each other, you know, if you're planning on testing, you might run around the pit area. Hey, are you staying? Are you staying? You know, and obviously it makes the costs less too to rent the racetrack.
Yeah,
but
come Monday, it becomes a little less cutthroat, I would imagine.
Yeah.
You know, you guys start to kind of
you
cool down.
Yeah, you won't share the information, but you will be able to share, oh, they're having trouble too. Or, man, they're rolling and we're not. We need to do something.
Do you guys turn boards off for testing?
No.
Or because then you're kind of seeing information.
Nah.
I don't know if you do you still run 1,000-foot in testing, or will you run?
Our team, for the most part, and actually the majority of my career, half track, 660 feet. That's kind of all we need to know.
All the data.
Yeah.
I mean, if you need more than that for data on a car, you're kind of
you're in trouble.
You're going the wrong direction.
Yeah, you're in trouble.
That starting line's probably 90% of it.
For us, it's not the starting line. It's going to be that 100 to 330 foot area because we're slipping the clutch so much leaving the starting line. The clutch starts applying, 1 second-ish into the run.
Yeah.
And so going to 8th mile, the clutch is now pretty much came all the way in. It's applied itself. And if you've made it through there, you're pretty much good to go. The only other thing you'll really learn, and you kind of got this figured out at 8th mile, is your fuel system, out the back door basically. Is it going to stay on 8 cylinders? Is the fuel system good? But majority of the time your testing is something new, something you're struggling with. The big budget teams, they just test, and it makes them better. But it doesn't matter if you're running 8th mile or 1,000 feet, still pretty much costs the same thing.
Yeah, those passes are probably about the same price.
Yeah.
It's just a little less likely that something's going to go wrong.
Out. Yeah.
You can kind of keep problems to a minimum, but you're still probably tearing the motor apart just the same.
100%.
You're doing clutches just the same.
Yep.
So with faster and faster cars, I noticed the starting line is almost like farther out. Like for me, the starting line is right there because there's so much going on. But for those guys where, 1 second, they're way out on me, their starting line is almost more, I guess you could kind of say, because they have to think about that 1 second over a longer part of the track where my 1 second's a little short spot on the track.
Right. I mean, again,
in 1 second, you're so far out already down the track.
Give you some quick numbers. So a top fuel car is going 100 miles an hour in 1 second. Actually, 0.8 of a second, 0.8. You're going 100. I mean, a normal 60-foot time for a top fuel car is 830, 840 in that area. But again, the Nitro cars, funny cars and dragsters, it's that 100 to 330 foot. We're accelerating so fast. The acceleration, the G meter actually, when you hit the throttle, a normal run's like 4.5 Gs, 4.5 Gs the moment you hit the throttle.
Cow.
And on a really good run at 300 feet, it'll be a little over 6 Gs. So the acceleration actually continues to go up through that point, and then it kind of levels off. But you're still making positive G's at the finish line. You know, the things just accelerate.
I was going to say, I've been around a lot of jet cars, and those things, like, they're still accelerating. Like, they're not even into peak efficiency until they're trying to shut the car down. And, because that's just how a jet operates. Like, it's not really singing until, like, it's, 200, 300 miles an hour type of thing. Like, it wants to be cruising.
Yeah, that's why they don't have the ET that we do. Yeah. You know, they're not getting going until 1,000 feet, you know.
Exactly. They want, like, a runway, like an airplane. But that's what I've been around. That's probably even similar to that feel and that
continuous acceleration.
Acceleration. But then you guys pull an insane amount of G's when you're slowing down as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's where it actually gets more scary.
It does.
In a lot of ways.
It's funny, you watch, whether it's a video from the starting line or on TV, car crosses the finish line, scoreboard lights up, you'll see your team members turn around and they're talking and headed back to the trailer, and you might be in the car going, oh crap, please stop, whatever's going on.
Starts to bounce around on the tires a little bit.
Around, whatever's going on, and it can be way more exciting for the driver at the finish line than it is actually going down the racetrack.
Yeah, because you go from positive G's to negative G's into...
According to how you open the parachutes, it's a crazy range, -4 to 11 G's.
Holy cow.
You can hurt yourself.
Yeah.
Big Daddy Don Garlits.
Yep.
Basically out of drag racing because of detached retinas, parachute testing. So I don't know how long ago, but driving into the parachutes at near 300 miles an hour. So he was actually opening the chutes and staying on the throttle till he felt them hit. Well, it detached a retina. Guy named Joe Amato, another name from the past, like 5 or 6 time NHRA world champion, neck problems, from parachutes. It's not the going, it's the stopping. Our bodies are fine with positive G's. They're not fine with negative G's.
So does it take almost more skill and practice to actually stop one? Or would you say it's because, like, you got to be pretty perfect on your drop on your chute and off the throttle and everything like that? Or is it so built into the car at this point?
Man,
because that almost sounds scarier. Like, getting down the track, I've done that 1,000 times in cars, but then stopping a car correctly seems scary.
It can definitely throw you. Actually, any part of the run can throw you curveballs. I mean, I've made thousands of runs in a Nitro car, and I still get surprised from time to time. Stopping, man, it's to me, going and stopping. It throws you curveballs you just don't know.
The stopping always seems crazy too, because I have mirrors. I can kind of feel what's going on, but like I see cars in other lanes, bumping into each other, tangling up in chutes, things like that, where those curveballs you can't prepare for somebody in your parachutes at 1,000 feet.
Exactly.
And we've seen that hundreds of times at this point, and that's always a scary one. And even like I feel like Bandimere is where I see a lot of those kind of things were happening at altitude.
Yeah, I love that place. So gonna miss it.
You can't not get like a little sadness in you when you're thinking about Bandimere. If you've ever been there, there's a special feeling about rolling down those staging lanes.
Oh, man, it's nothing like that. I mean, what other track you can't see the racetrack. You roll down the staging lanes, and they got scoreboards on the back of the tower. Mm-hmm. And I was so fortunate. I won the last race there.
Yeah.
That was just huge. That ranks up there at the top for me.
Yeah, that'll always be a special trophy right there,
exactly.
I'm sure. It's just, it was such a great place, and the Bandimeres did such a good job with it. But if you've never looked over the mountain at cars down there racing, it's just incredible. Such a different perspective. Like, you're watching an aerial view.
Yes, from the grandstands.
From either in your pits, if you're way up at the top, or in the grandstands. It's an aerial view of drag racing, which doesn't happen anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, I insisted, my sisters, I love my sisters. I've already brought them up on here already, but I insisted they come to that race. They had never been, and I'm like, it's the last one. Had no idea I was going to win it, obviously, but I insisted, you got to come and see this. I said, because there's no other, it's the most magical place ever to watch a drag race.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
There's nowhere else where the rigs are parked above the grandstands. It's incredible.
I remember looking over the RV big, RV
Yeah.
windshield,
Yeah.
5 miles wide, it seems like, and you're
Yep.
looking down at drag racing is so cool. We got there and let the dog out the first time. She goes to run and she looks back and she's like, what's going on? She like starts panting. She's like, I think I'm dying. She was so confused.
Oh yeah, I mean, you get on your scooter and it won't go nowhere. You try to go up the hill at staging lanes and you might have to assist your scooter.
Yeah, you're like, why is this altitude doing this to me? It's so funny, but it's a unique track, and then it seems like a lot of the big NHRA ones, unfortunately, are going the wayside, and these small tracks are just growing like crazy because we've lost Houston, Bandimere, Atlanta's now been gone for a little while, but like Memphis. I think Sonoma's already in worries, or one of the ones in California. Maybe not Pomona.
No, Pomona just signed a 10-year sponsorship deal with In-N-Out.
Then Memphis, you're saying.
Memphis is gone.
And it's still sitting there, right? It's still.
I was just there. Shouldn't have been, but I was just there.
Yeah, and then we lost one down used to be Moroso.
West Palm.
But a lot of those were NHRA big tracks. They weren't just like your little hole in the wall, 8th mile, no times type of stuff. Like those were
big tracks. And it's sad. I mean, let's continue on the Bandimere path, It's hard to be mad at the Bandimeres. They've ran that track as a family for 65 years. Think about that.
I have no animosity towards
Me neither.
them. I'm happy at least that they got a big payout.
Yep.
I'm happy that they're comfortable in their lives
for
going
generations
after all that they gave to drag racing. Like I understand. And they were pushed out by the state.
Yeah.
Like they weren't
100%.
So,
once they lost their parking, they were in trouble, and I hope they build a new one. I mean, I think they're going to, but unfortunately, no matter how nice they build it, it will never have the mystique of being cut out of the side of the mountain, because I don't think that's possible. I don't think the government's going to allow that to ever happen.
I don't think they'll let you cut a mountain up for a drag strip anytime soon.
Yeah.
But even, as to see money get put into a track, Indy just tore down their tower, right? And they're rebuilding. They're going to be
well, there's a new one in Kansas, that Flying H, so
concrete and all.
I mean, it's going to be a nice facility. You hear the gloom and doomers, drag racing's dead, but in reality, it's not. It is kicking butt. Some of these big tracks, it's so costly to run them. I mean, I hear people down here in Florida all the time. The only thing that happens in Gainesville is the Gator Nationals.
Yeah.
Probably cost a lot of money to open that facility, and having local weekly test and tune probably makes no sense.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, once that property becomes worth so much money, it's what happens,
Well, it's weird too, almost not being at a big facility, but a small event feels almost weird.
Yeah.
Like at a test and tune when there's grandstands, you're like, this is weird. Like Bradenton, you always feel like you're home, like
something
you're
going
with
on,
family, like because it's a big track, but it's small feel to it that feels so different. Like even everybody at Gainesville for Sick Week, like track prep wasn't all that great.
Yep.
It's not their normal thing. Like test and tune style race like that isn't their normal deal.
Yep.
So it's a tricky track, which is weird. But then you go to South Georgia, and it's that Raul just got into it. He's the new owner of it, and he's been doing an awesome job with that stuff. That, from what I've seen, I haven't been there since he's taken ownership, but it's a small time family
run operation
that feels like that, which is so cool. I love that in drag racing.
Me too.
How many drag racers have the personal cell phone number of the owner of the track?
Exactly. Prime example. I'm driving down here. I send Victor a text. Hey, man, I'm pulling in early.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Or Wade,
Yeah, exactly.
Wade's there. I don't think he's ever left there, actually. I think he's just a permanent fixture.
Yeah, I bet Wade's got the shakes going, all that glue being scraped off the racetrack right now as we're doing this.
I know. I want to go take some. I need to add it to my jar. I got the. They should have sold the jars of glue next. But there's something special about that. Victor always talks about the vibe of the track.
It is
so important. And those big facilities, it's hard to do that.
Yeah, it's corporate, so to speak, when they're that big like that. I mean, people ask, one of the questions I get all the time, where should I go to a race? And What's your favorite? That sort of thing. I have multiple answers
Interesting.
for that. My favorite, and this is purely just an emotional driven thing, my favorite is Bristol.
Yep.
My next would be, if you want to go watch a race, is Bandimere, which obviously, that's gone. And the nicest, in my opinion, the nicest drag racing facility in the country is Charlotte. That place is spectacular.
Yeah, Z-Max is unreal.
Unreal. It's
You're talking
spectacular.
4-wide
Yep.
Z-Max. Yeah, it's an unreal facility.
It's spotless. The asphalt's perfect in the parking area. It's beautiful. So I have multiple answers.
And those grandstands are unreal too. And if you get there, sometimes you can hear the NASCAR going on, like NASCAR riding around the track because it's not far away. I would agree. I've been to all those, and I would 100% agree with that assessment. I think Thunder Valley, Bristol, right? They call it Thunder Valley because don't they call it Thunder Valley, Oklahoma also?
Well,
I think
there's a few of them. I mean, because Bandimere's got a Thunder Mountain, I think is what that is,
And then there's
Bristol's
cool
Thunder Valley because it is in a valley.
You're in a valley, so everything echoes. And you look around and it's just like woods and trees and like a great place. I also really like MIR up in...
Oh, yeah, Budds Creek.
Yeah, you go there like in the fall, and it's such a nice place to be. They have a really long, nice shutdown. Like, you can just cruise down the shutdown, but there's...
You know what's funny? Mine and your perspective on long shutdowns are like 100% opposite because I've did IHRA forever. I raced IHRA Sportsman. I did Top Fuel there, and we did not. Even after I went to Top Fuel, we didn't go to Budds Creek, even though it was on the schedule for a few years because it wasn't long enough.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. So I was looking at shutdowns the other night, just in the thought of this, and I was looking at Dallas, and I was like, man, they look like they got a lot of shutdown, and then they have a long sand trap because we'll be in Dallas in March for TX2K, and it'll be my first time actually racing there. I've been there. It's very... NHRA tracks are all kind of the same layout. They all have you drive under the tower. They're all kind of the same type of deal. But that one looks like it's going to be a good facility.
Oh, it is. It is. So Dallas, this is the driver in me coming out thinking about a youngster like you. Stay in the groove. It's a very narrow, all concrete. They actually over the years had to dumb that racetrack down. It was so good. It was also the very first in modern era all concrete facility, and the groove was extremely narrow, and if you got outside of it you pretty much were a crash. And many years after they run it, they shot peened the entire racing surface to kind of dumb it down so that people would widen the groove out. And it is actually 20, 30, I don't know how old it is. The place is over 30 years old. It's the same surface. They built it. It's called post-tension. God, I'm getting way off track here, y'all.
No, I love it.
So it's post-tension concrete. So it's got cables in it. They can tighten and loosen to help keep the place level. No matter what the ground does underneath, the concrete's kind of suspended.
So they spent that money early, and now it's worth it.
And it's just, 30, 40 years old, whatever the place is.
I mean, it's a great facility.
It's a
Anytime
great
I've been there,
facility.
and from the last time I was there, they're not near anything, which is great.
No.
Anytime there's a drag strip not near anything, because Atlanta, me and my wife loved going there. But anytime we'd gone there, we were like, oh, there's too much stuff close to here. This isn't looking good.
Yeah. Once they built Atlanta, man, we are bouncing everywhere.
I know.
We done went from Bandimere to
We're
Dallas.
talking about drag strips, man. We're talking about the greatness of them and the feel and there's not, like, you can't replicate these drag strip to drag strip. Like when you go to Indy for Cletus and cars, like it's this feel to it. And then last year we were lucky enough to have Top Alcohol cars there testing, and those guys were kind of lucky enough to have a double event.
It was 100% the biggest NHRA points race ever because of the Cletus cars going on.
Yeah.
They don't sell a lot of tickets to points races because the Nitro cars aren't there. But
and those guys seem to enjoy it because
absolutely.
There was if you're a casual viewer, you may not realize the difference between all these cars, but you see a long skinny car with a blower and big zoomies out the side, and it's cool and it's awesome no matter, if you're just a casual fan, you may not be super concerned that it's not Top Fuel.
Yeah, still
it's
going
cool.
250 mile an hour.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. Like
Yeah.
you're not like, oh, this isn't the peak. I'm like, you don't kind of, put your nose up at them, but they got to race in front of a full crowd.
Yeah, 100%. All of us racers love people in the grandstands.
Yeah.
We're show-offs. We really are. We want the attention.
For sure. It's it's an attention sport.
Oh,
for sure.
absolutely. It's ego-driven,
Yep.
No question about it. I got a funny story. So we were at Bud's Creek. Years ago, IHRA, it had run super late. It had rained. It was just one of those days. Took forever. A lot of oil downs, and I am the last pair of Top Fuel cars. And it's after midnight or near midnight.
Oh.
And I'm in the car, strapped in. I'm a big radio guy, so I've got radios. I've done it from day one in Top Fuel. Yeah. There is one family left. It's cold. It's miserable. They got blanket over them. And I see them packing their stuff up. I'm going to say it's mom and dad and 2 kids. And they're packing their stuff away. And I see this, and I'm like, God, they're the last people in the grandstands. I get on the radio, tell my crew guy who backs me up from the Burnout, so he's already up near the water box. Mm-hmm. I'm like, tell that family if they'll stay and watch our run, I'll give every one of them T-shirts. I didn't want to be there by myself, and they did. They stayed, and it was awesome.
Yeah, so you got to meet them after.
Yeah, like,
some T-shirts.
Please don't leave,
Yep.
I want somebody to watch this run besides just the racers.
Yeah, you got to have a little bit going on here. I know that's what bracket racing always kind of gets made fun of for is the stands not being full.
Yeah,
but
it's a racer sport. That one is.
It's tough to be a promoter, and it's tougher now more than ever to get people to go into the stands because it's an all-day event to drag race. And NASCAR, again, always goes through this same thing where they're like, what do we do? Do we shorten the races? How do we make it more consumable? Yeah. And drag racing is a difficult to consume sport.
It's an all-day.
It's all day. Especially you try to watch Sick Week and it's an all-week thing.
Oh, yeah. All day, every day.
7 days, whatever it is, 5 days. Yeah. You're like, oh, man, I can't keep up with all that. So it's tough because you got to try to make it consumable, but also it's a slow-moving sport. There's prep. There's so much involved in it.
Which goes back to the radial thing. You want to watch tractors drive around all day? Watch a radial race.
I know. They need to figure out something with that for sure. And as much as I love radials, I'll be the first to make fun of the tractors all day because not even just that. It's like street cars or street style door cars, I guess you could say. They oil down the track more than anybody. You guys probably hardly put fluid on the track.
When we do, it's a good one.
Yeah.
But we have so much, belly pans, and we have 2 freaking diapers under the engine. It's big puke tanks, which is, people question all the time, what's that big tank on the back of the car? We call it a puke tank. It's to catch oil if we freaking get by the rings.
It's got to hold as much oil as the engine holds.
Exactly.
Like, it's not like, you could just put a little cork on there. Like it's got to, like even mine, it holds between the lines and the tank, it holds as much oil as the engine holds. In case of a catastrophic failure. You say by the rings, I say, through a piston.
Yeah, well, us too.
Yeah,
Same
you put
thing.
the boost right into the bottom end.
Yeah, oil's going somewhere.
Yeah, I prefer to keep the boost above the piston, but sometimes it ends up below it.
Yes.
Quite a bit. You guys probably run a pretty loose engine to start, and then does it tighten up pretty good down track? Or
it does, but I mean, big ring gap, pretty loose, so. All right, we're at a stop spot. I got to pee.
Look at this. Kevin.
Oh, shit.
Kept her off the wall.
Dang it. Man, he's been like 753 in it to death.
I know. He's on it, man.
He is, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it broke something.
It looked like maybe transline or something came off, but that's the problem with Sick Week, man.
Oh, yeah, you just hang your tongue out.
But you can't non-bolt these cars like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you can, but like, you get to a track, you're on 2 hours of sleep. How do you muster up the courage to be like, I'm not going to make my pass. I'm going to nut and bolt this thing. I'm going to make sure it's safe. Like it's hard. And then the other flip side is you have to make your pass. Like you can't
miss your spot. Or you're going to be there all day.
Yeah.
I haven't done one yet, but oh my goodness, am I so ready.
Yeah. Well, you got a car for it now, right?
I do.
It's just a scheduling thing, I'd imagine.
Man, from Tom Bailey, Jeff Lutz, they're like, all right, we're doing this, and for y'all that don't know, Jeff Lutz and I built a vehicle just for drag and drive.
Yep.
for me. And then Jeff made the decision, he's going to drag Mad Max out, been sitting in mothballs, and he's like, you got to come do it. You're not racing. I'm like, well, I kind of am. I'm already here, and they're not through with sick week.
Yeah, you're here. You got to test this week, and they're still making passes right now.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, Jeff is not making passes at the moment.
Dang it.
I know, that was a bummer.
He is. I tell you what, I'm pretty impressed with what they did. I was at his shop, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. We're building another car for SEMA together, and kind of uncovered Mad Max. The thing's just full of old parts, and it's dirty. You know, I mean, it's a chassis shop, so it's just nasty.
Yeah, and he's been running No Prep Kings all season, and that's a grueling schedule.
Yes. And so he's like, we kind of finished what me and him needed to do on what we were doing, and he's like, man, come on, let's peel the wiring out of this thing. There was so much stuff in there, because it was like repaired for, Hot Rod Drag Week, it was like wiring here, up, and you could just tell there was things just fixed and repaired. We peeled every bit of the wiring out of it, and they showed up for Sick Week with basically a brand new car. I mean, yes, it's Mad Max and it's done all these things, but they've learned so much from the last time that car was run, and they tested for a couple of days before Sick Week started. I couldn't believe that they made the drives as easy as they did. It was the racetrack was giving them crap.
It always does with the big tires at Sick Week. The tires rattle and break stuff, and not for lack of trying, Jeff.
Oh, man, did you see some of the runs all over the racetrack in that freaking Mad Max and Mad Man behind the wheel? I'm like, holy crap.
You could see the No Prep Kings in him coming out when he's in there wheeling this thing. I was like, the first pass at Orlando, he was like a foot off the wall.
And still run 229 or something,
The turbo exhaust probably pushed him back straight because he got so close to the wall. I was like, holy cow, man. You gotta but that's the Sick Week we're talking about, where you gotta make that run.
You gotta make it.
You can it's not like a testing tune where you can just abandon as many runs as you want. Yeah. You got to make those runs.
And you know what's funny? I did see a lot of comments because I've been posting. Again, he's one of my best friends. I've been posting the runs I could find on my social media. And then, when he finally pulled the plug last night, I did see a pile of comments that people are like, man, Jeff's awesome. He's out there rebuilding the motor and he's doing this. I think a lot of people just didn't realize that's where he started. He's one of the OG drag and drive guys,
Yeah, I think there's it's a new crowd into drag and drive since Sick Week started. And, me and Tom talked about that, 10 years ago there was one. Yeah. And for 10 years there was one drag and drive, and then all of a sudden there's 50.
Yeah, exactly.
Overnight.
Exactly.
So now it's like a different group of people watching.
You just had that little young guy Blaine in here. His whole life has been Sick Week and Rocky Mountain Race Week.
Stick shift racing with his dad and that kind of thing, and that it's just how it is. It's like, and Jeff is a great example of the hard work. I watched so many videos and photos and clips of him pulling the cylinder heads off that thing, and just like so many times where so many other teams would have quit and given in, and he was just like, all right, well, heads are coming off again. Yep. And I think it was him and his son Jeffrey with him, right?
No, actually, it was a guy named Scott with him. Jeffrey was doing Sick Week in a LS powered truck.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Now they were together, obviously, but they can't help each other. Is that correct?
You can once you're out of competition. Okay. So once you hand in your slip for the day, then you can kind of help each other. Okay. But during competition, I know that's been the rules for a lot of them, but during competition, you have to stick to your two.
So at the end of the day, after you've handed in your slip, if you need to put rods and pistons in it, Jeffrey could help? Is that correct?
That's how it works, yeah. Because then, if you're broken down on the side of the road, 50 people could kind of help you a little bit.
Long as they're part of the event. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of weird rules. It's more of like a spirit thing, I guess, and how that kind of rolls. But during competition is when they're really strict. And they have, Keith Turk there watching over your back in quarantine, and he's not going to let you just sneak by. Yeah.
Well, I don't know the details, and you need to get Jeff on here, actually.
I'd love to have Jeff on.
He's going to be down working on my Top Fuel car all week. He's coming. Maybe we can figure that out. But There's a story of the rivalry between Jeff and Larry Larson, and it has something to do with some help that was given that shouldn't have been, parts, or I don't really know, and I don't even want to start that. But that is Hot Rod Drag Week's where that started, and it spilled over into Street Outlaws, obviously, you know, the whole no prep thing. But
yeah, and he's obviously become so deep in the no prep Kings world, which, I mean, I don't blame him. There's huge money in that, and there's great competition. There's really badass cars. Like, it's a good series. People like to dog on that a little bit, but it's a good
done
series.
So much for drag racing.
For sure.
Another, again, I'm old. I got a lot of stories.
I love hearing them.
So when that show first come out, you know, everybody was just dogging on it, the drama, this, that, and other. Well, I don't even know exactly, but somehow, some way, I got contacted by Murder Nova, Sean, whatever. They wanted, him and Big Chief wanted to come to the race in Dallas. This is, again, way back to when the show very first started.
Like when No Prep started or when Street Outlaws started? Okay,
Street Outlaws.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Yes, 10 years ago, whatever it is. So those two guys came to Dallas. If I'm not mistaken, Big Chief had never been to an NHRA race, period. Well, I got in trouble for them being there. Because
Just for them being on property with you?
Being on property with me. I'm like, they're here as my guests, you know, and
they're just like people.
they're just people, you know. And at that point, I'm and I have from day one, I'm singing the praises that Street Outlaws has been good for drag racing, period. Whether it's the little racetracks they're showing up doing match races. This, again, you know, before No Prep Kings. Those guys were out doing match races, selling out little racetracks. Anyway, I get in trouble by the NHRA. I don't even know if I've ever actually talked about this in public, but they're in my pit area chewing on me for those guys being there.
Yeah.
And those two guys were at the back of my pit area signing autographs on my hero cards. And I said, all you need to do is turn around and look. You would have thought, I don't know what to use. Taylor Swift was back there signing autographs. It was so many people there. And, you know, within a few weeks, you know, that was when they lost their NHRA license, the guys that had them, including Jeff, actually.
Yeah, so they revoked the NHRA license, which I don't
for
even
the people
know what
that had
really
them.
means.
Yeah,
but
you know,
they took it away.
They took it away, you know, and then fast forward, NHRA kind of gave in, and they invited, you know, Chief went and did Pro Mod at Indy one year, and it, obviously it's now evolved into No Prep Kings, blah, 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 blah.
Which are pretty much pro mods.
Which are pretty much pro mod racing,
they're very close to a pro mod.
Yeah, exactly.
Steel roof pro mod.
But people think they didn't help drag racing. They're wrong. They have helped racetracks. They've helped car builders. They've helped every freaking body that makes parts, because so many cars have been built from that show. No different than all these drag and drive events. That's doing nothing but increasing cars being built.
And the show obviously evolved, and from what I've always heard, the racing is real. Like
100%.
The racing is real, and it would be really tough to tell some racer to take a dive.
Yeah.
Like
they're not doing it.
Yeah, they're not going to be like, the producer's not going to be like, hey, let this guy win because he's more famous.
Yeah.
Hell no. If I can go gap that man on TV, it's going to happen.
It's going to happen.
You're not getting those guys with the big egos to just...
No.
And not saying big ego in a bad way.
It is what it is.
You're not going to be famous on that show without one.
Yeah, yeah. You know,
you're not having them take a dive.
They're just not going to do it.
Yes. You know? So that's a pretty it's a pretty interesting deal how that show has completely evolved, and I know there's so many rumors now about it coming up, but
yeah, I mean, it's had a heck of a run. I mean, you're looking at a guy right here that was part of Pink's All Out. You know, I was on that TV show, and it was the biggest show on cable TV, kind of like Street Outlaws, you know, and it's got a lifespan. And once that lifespan's kind of reached its peak, then boop, it's gone away, and then you're looking for the next thing. So after, and I'm totally wrong, and we'll hear what I'm saying is wrong, but so Pink's All Out went away. There was Pastime. There were that run of shows, and then it became, you know, American Chopper. And it, you know, whatever the car show you can think of, it's like on to the next thing. And it's ever evolving.
It went from drag racing to like building custom cars for a long time, and then it kind of went back to drag racing with street stuff, which was interesting because when I was growing up, everything was just building classic cars,
right?
Like all of it,
like the Chip Foose show. You know, that was huge, and it's still around. But You know, television is a weird thing, and it's not what people think.
Yeah, now it's all YouTube, and these guys are kind of doing the same thing on YouTube that they've always done.
Yeah.
You know, you look at like somebody like Gas Monkey, and
Yep.
he had a little Top Fuel in there too, right?
Yeah,
they had
that,
Gas Monkey Top Fuel car and stuff, and
row stock and
he ventured into that. I don't know if they still sponsor anyone or
I don't know that they do or not either, but you know, they did that with Alex Laughlin. You know, that was part of Street Outlaws, actually. If you remember, Alex Laughlin drove, and it was supposed to have been Richard versus Big Chief. And
Alex has driven everything.
He's driven everything.
He's one of those people where you're like, wait, you just driven every car possible and every surface or anything?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You know, he's done it. You know, he's figured out how to make a living having fun. You know?
Kind of spring himself into every seat imaginable.
Exactly.
He's like a Lyle Barnett type of thing.
Yeah,
where,
exactly.
You know,
even more so, you know, but Lyle's kind of on that path for sure.
Yeah, he's getting to that. You know,
I love Lyle.
Yeah, he's awesome. He's had Top Fuel experience.
Yeah.
He's Pro Mod, like all kinds of different things. I know he was in talks with driving a Top Fuel car.
Well, I mean, if it's public knowledge that if Tony Stewart didn't drive the car, it would have been Lyle.
Yeah,
you know,
which is pretty unreal that he was there.
Oh, can you imagine how that sucks though to be Lyle? It's like, oh man, you know, I'm getting to drive for Tony Stewart, and then Tony's like, no, I'm up in the seat. You know?
I know the biggest news in NHRA history.
Yeah, oh, don't get me started on that.
I was making fun of it publicly, but
you know, it wasn't Mission Foods, a brand new sponsor for the entire series. It was a driver change.
It wasn't bigger payouts or anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't even know what payouts are for a standard Top Fuel.
It's horrible.
Because I don't think they publicize them or anything. Cause
you got to search to find it.
Because when I go to a race, like it's on the flyer.
Oh, yeah,
it's
absolutely. Kind of like the Pro Superstar Shootout.
Yeah.
$250,000 to win.
Yeah, you show up on property, you know you're getting a briefcase with, you know, or whatever, a check with $250,000 written on it right to you. Yeah, so.
NHRA Top Fuel race pays $50,000. It is a loser. We can't run the car for $50,000.
Yeah,
you can't do it.
What does it cost? Like, how do you break it down? Do you think per pass? Do you think
you can get to that number, and it's obviously varies by team. So I only know our team. So you take employees, shop rent, light bill, truck fuel, everything you spend in a year for our team, and you just divide it by how many runs did the Top Fuel car make. You're looking at like $15,000 to run. Now you do that with a John Force, it's maybe triple that because they got triple the amount of people and, you know, triple the overhead, you know, whatever. I don't know. I mean,
I've seen his facility. It's
it's incredible.
Insane.
And he has two of them.
Yeah, it's an operation.
Yeah, it's an operation.
He is NHRA, basically. You know, he's half that. He's half the, when you show up, you're looking at all the rigs.
Yeah.
Half of them seem like they're him.
Yeah, him and Kalita. You know, it used to be him, Kalita, and Schumacher. You know, and obviously we lost Don Schumacher not that long ago, but all those teams are still out there. But, you know, John Force has got a whole row of rigs and trailers, you know. My running thing with him is he's the Elvis of drag racing. He is.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah.
I mean, his name will always be connected to funny car and drag racing. Why is it funny car in him? Why do you think he's always stuck to? Seems like he's always stuck to funny car.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I think that's just his thing. I mean, I'm a dragster guy. You know, I've been asked, you know, would you drive a funny car? And I'm like, if forklift driver, which I did for a living for 11 years, funny car. I'm gonna take the funny car. You know, I just never had the opportunity. And I don't know. You know, I think when John come up, there were so many match race opportunities. He was able to keep the bills paid somewhat doing match races, and funny cars were what people wanted to see match racing in the 70s.
Yeah, because it's a little bit more like relatable, I guess, than the long skinny cars.
Yeah, exactly.
You can kind of the thing about like Top Fuel too is interesting to me because they're very similar looking to like. If you just see a video of a Top Fuel car and like a video of like somebody bracket racing, you're like, wait, those are the same. And then once you're actually there, you're like, oh, no, these are two different worlds.
Two different worlds. It's kind of like what you were talking about, you know, the Cletus and cars in Indy. A lot of the people that probably had never seen dragsters, you know, at that event, they're like, holy moly, these cars are flying. Again, you know, 250, 260, whatever they're running. But if they come to an NHRA national event, when they see the alcohol dragsters, they're like, holy crap, that's fast, until the nitro cars run. Then they're like, oh my goodness, yeah, that now I've seen the top of the top.
Nitro is a different world. That fuel is crazy in itself.
It is.
Just take away everything else, just talking about fuel, putting alcohol in a car versus nitro in a car. You can, like, people do it in like street cars now, you know, like Honda's all motors, they run nitro, and you can audibly hear even just a fuel change because it's so oxygenated, I guess. It's like,
it is. A lot of people, you know, they think of nitro, they're like, oh, you know, I'm scared of it or whatever. The truth is gasoline is actually more dangerous than nitro. You can throw a match in nitro and it'll just go out. It's a weird fuel.
because it's hard to ignite.
It's hard to ignite.
Like
I mean, we
need
run
two
lots
magnetos
of timing.
that are,
you know, 44 amps each, and they would be bigger if NHRA would allow us. You know,
you weld right through a freaking iron with that.
Exactly. You know, but gasoline actually makes more power than nitro. But you can't put as much gasoline in an engine; it would just flood it out. To where the nitro is so oxygenated that you can just keep pouring it in there, and it's bringing the oxygen with it.
Yeah, so how much, like, what an air fuel would you even...
It's almost 1-to-1.
Okay, that's wild.
Yeah, so what gasoline's 10 to 1, you know, what's kind of like the ideal?
About that, I mean, it depends if you're talking Stoich on, I run ethanol stuff mostly anyways, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty fair.
Yeah.
But methanol is obviously very different, but then when you're talking 1-to-1, that's just...
Close to that.
A fire hose.
Yeah, it's a fire hose of fuel. It really is.
To spark that is insane.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a timing number... I mean, what's your 2J run? 30 degrees timing?
About that. Yep.
Top fuel cars near 60. Some guys do run 60.
Wow.
Yeah.
But of course, you start them up in the burnout, and then, you know, you're not like, obviously idle timing is very different, but like you run that for so short of a time too.
Oh yeah.
So that's different too. Like, you know, I'm running for 7.5 seconds.
Right.
You guys are running for a blip almost, which is... I think a lot of people don't realize that too. Like, you talk to really fast nitrous guys, and they're like, "Yeah, I run a lot more nitrous, but think about how much less I'm using it." Like,
exactly.
You're using it for 7 seconds down the track, like where you know some guys using it for 3.8 seconds in like a fast radial nitrous car.
Exactly.
It's all so relative, and even your tuning window seems so different.
Oh, anything that you know about gasoline, E85. Alcohol, whatever you run, throw it out the window. It means nothing for nitro. I mean, I was a bracket racer, sportsman racer forever until I started the nitro thing. It's just so different.
Yeah.
You know, this is, really bringing it down to elementary level, but everybody's had a car that the old Holly carburetor's not happy and it's loading up, and you really just grab the throttle, wabba, clear it out. It makes it run on 8 again.
Yeah.
A nitro car is just the opposite. It does not want to be free revved at all. If it does not have a load on it, it'll drop cylinders. So when you see these things going down the racetrack and it drops a cylinder, the majority of the time it's because the engine lost load. Let's say it slipped the tires just a little bit, not enough to smoke the tires, but it's slipping the tires, and it removes enough load on the engine. The nitro's like, nope, I'm not happy. I'm just gonna quit running.
So you need the clutches to be getting tight as possible.
Just gotta keep it loaded,
loading up the engine,
and it's a fine balance of clutch slippage to where the car won't smoke the tires. Or get ET. You're trying to ride that fine line of keeping the tire hooked and keeping the engine continuously gaining RPM, because obviously RPM and drive shaft speed makes you go fast. But if you get one ahead of the other, it'll either smoke the tires or not have enough load and drop cylinders.
So your clutch guy is mighty important.
Yeah. That all comes through the crew chief. The clutch person is doing what the crew chief tells him to do.
So your crew chief is just got to be next level smart guy.
Next level smart guy, because they're over. An engine change can make the clutch not work right. A clutch change can make the motor not work right.
How much data can you get from the clutches themselves? Like on, like, you know, I guess like on a converter and like a regular style like Turbo 400, you can get a lot of data on all kinds of like pressures and everything like that, and the converter slip and stuff.
Yeah.
But how much data can you really get from a clutch pack?
The biggest black magic so we run, most all the cars now run 6 clutch discs. The biggest black magic of that is no clutch disc is the same. So our cars operate on clutch wear. So there's 8, man, we're getting deep now.
I love it. I mean, I'm
I can't wait to actually put it in front of you and show it. It'll make more sense. So our pressure plate has 18 levers. So there's, if you think of a diaphragm style clutch, whatever, you know, like in a street car, all the levers are applied when you let the clutch out. Well, we have 18 levers, and when we stage the car, I've actually got my foot off the clutch. So it's sitting there running. It wants to go, but it's got enough slip built in that you can hold it with the brake. So you actually stage the car with your foot off the clutch. And the bearing will maintain its spot. It won't move, the throwout bearing.
okay.
When the car goes wide open throttle, there's a switch under the gas pedal that starts all the systems. It starts the fuel system, the timing curve. Everything starts off of going wide open throttle. So we're going to stick to the clutch.
Is that on race pack?
It's well, we monitor how the clutch moves.
That makes sense.
But it's actually controlled by electric timers that operate air over hydraulic. NHRA won't allow us to make it fully electric because then it kind of starts to become a little easier for traction control, obviously.
Oh, okay. So
it's air over
traction
hydraulic
control on you, because if you allowed electronic stuff, you can
start to get into
you can control the slip using wheel speed and RPM and whatever's in between there.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so they're trying to slow you guys down on your
electronic side of things. Yes. I'm gonna stay on our path. I almost slid off somewhere else.
I know. I'm just trying to grasp it all and why they do that, I guess.
Right. So it's kind of an antiquated deal that the electric timers, that's pretty modern. You know, it's like a delay box kind of sort of thing. But it's air over hydraulic to operate the throwout bearing. So, all right, back to wide open throttle. So when the car sees wide open throttle, that starts those timers that the crew chief has set ahead of time. That throwout bearing will start backing away from those 18 levers on the pressure plate. Those 18 levers are not at the same height. So they are applying at different times as that throwout bearing is moving away. So imagine putting your car, street car, in high gear. Let's say it's a 4-speed. So put it in 4th gear and go wide open and slowly start taking your foot off the clutch pedal. That's what's happening. I'm not doing that. The crew chief has set that up, but the 18 levers are they're applying pressure to the disc as that bearing is moving away, which is obviously accelerating the car. The more, every time you apply a lever, you're applying plate load to the clutch disc, and the car will just continue to accelerate. And you can do that however infinite. It's like building a timing map or a fuel curve.
Yeah, there's a billion ways to do that.
Billion ways to do that.
So that's where that crew chief really shows his skill, is by reading the track surface and what it wants to do.
Speeding up or slowing down the clutch. If the track is really good in an area, they'll speed it up.
How quickly can those be adjusted?
Pretty quick.
Like you can read the track and then come back and do it, or is that like
100%.
I didn't know if you had to do it like almost at the pits and hope you kind of got it right.
You have a basic setup. You know, you get a little track information. You kind of got an idea. You know, the crew chief always will walk the track ahead of time. The big dog teams have a track specialist that stays out there all day long, and they're texting them information. You know, at 100 feet, it's looking good.
Yeah.
You know, and you see people with their little fancy devices for checking.
Yeah, they got the torque wrench
torque wrench deal, and now you're starting to see these little boxes that are like $35,000 that you set on the racetrack that gives you a number.
And the track prep guys usually don't even have this stuff. just the crew guys usually do. Because like the guys prepping the track don't check all that
stuff. A guy like
as much.
Kurt Johnson, he does, but he also works for Tony Stewart Racing.
Okay.
I don't know if you knew that or not. He is their track guy.
Okay.
Which is a pretty dang good guy to have as your track specialist,
Man, there's no conflict of interest there?
Well, he doesn't prep the NHRA tracks.
Okay.
So he is obviously a track prep specialist that works for Tony Stewart Racing, but he doesn't do the prep work for NHRA. So.
But like it's funny because at Bradenton, Wade doesn't check the prep like that. But all the other teams I see doing that. Yeah. So it's kind of like this funny crossover. But I guess to him, he knows what he's laying down, and they have to adapt
just
to
knows.
it. They have to adapt to it. Exactly. He doesn't have to adapt.
He's laid it out there. Here you go, have at it.
Yeah, it's down. So you're doing this like on the fly. You can adjust these pressures and how they release, and you just slip down track as you're going, and it's not a gear change or anything. It's just direct slipping right down the track. And that's what I've heard is where the reaction time is not
great on top fuel cars or nitro cars.
Yeah,
nitro cars.
Somebody like a radial tire racer sees a top fuel dragster,
go 070 and he's like, those guys suck.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can do better than that.
Yeah.
But
I had the same thought as a bracket race guy till I drove a top fuel car. And I'm like,
yeah, it's inherently going to be worse.
And here's the other thing that, man, I can really get down the road on reaction time, and we're not going to go there completely, but there's no trans brake. You're not revving the engine up. You're leaving from a dead idle. So you literally, you're not even really foot braking the car.
Yeah.
You're leaving from a dead idle. And so the reaction times aren't that great because you got this giant tire, and we've all seen the pictures of the rim is made like a half a turn, and the cars went nowhere. Then you got all this clutch slippage happening. The thing don't really move. We hadn't talked about this, but the number that the crew chiefs are really looking for is from the moment you hit the throttle, what RPM does the engine go to? So basically all the top fuel cars, I don't know about funny cars, we're somewhere between 8,000 and 8,400 the moment you hit the throttle. So you got to go from that dead idle to 8,000 RPM.
What is it idle at? Like 1,000 RPM?
2,600.
Okay, so it's
they idle pretty
idle.
fast. Yeah, they idle pretty fast.
It's pretty high idle, but still, I mean, that's crazy. And the initial hit, and then the tires have to square up almost, or you don't. Really,
you got to get that rim rotation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much squaring of the tire really you want to have happen, but it kind of.
We need that tire slip, that's for sure.
Yeah, you kind of need that. Such an interesting thing, and the tire technology, obviously, in your time doing this, has completely blown up.
So much. The tires are way safer than they used to be. They don't smoke as much as they used to. That's one thing I hear from the fans. You don't
burnout.
Yeah, they're not big enough burnout. Well, it's actually the rubber's different. They don't smoke like they used to.
How do you do a burnout with the clutches? Can you lock them all?
No, it wants to go, and so those levers are being held by the throwout bearing. They're. I got into a big debate on YouTube comments about a guy because I said it's similar to a go-kart clutch, and it kind of is because it's a centrifugal clutch. So as the engine RPM comes up, these 18 levers are swinging out, and what's stopping them is the throwout bearing. So when we do the burnout, it's seeing clutch levers, and you're bringing the engine RPM up, and that's how it does a burnout.
Okay, so it basically just works the same as going down track, but it would just happen quicker because the load is gone.
Yeah, and we're not going wide open throttle, so the bearing's not going completely back.
What do you do a burnout at, like 20% throttle, if that?
It's getting an eighth of an inch of throttle. One, like the blades are barely cracking open. I mean, we use an 1/8 inch drill bit, crack the blades open, and that's, so 120 thousandths, whatever that is, not much.
Does not take much, I'm sure.
Doesn't take much, no.
And people always say like 10,000 horsepower. Is that what we're talking about here?
10 to 12.
10 to 12,000
10 to 12,000, because there's no dyno you can put that thing on.
It just... that's another number that doesn't like make sense to people.
Yeah.
Like you hear 10,000 and you're like,
no way.
You're like, that doesn't even like, it's like hearing 300 mile an hour, 8th mile. Like it's not like it doesn't compute well.
It is 100%. And we said this before filming, and we didn't have a long conversation before we started this. It is something you've got to come and see and feel it and hear it. I mean, you know, these cars literally shake the earth. They will set car alarms off out in the parking lot. I don't remember the numbers, but I'm pretty sure, actually, I think it was University of Florida brought seismic meters out to the Gator Nationals, and they get pretty good readings when these cars leave the starting line.
I'm sure that's probably pretty insane. I actually was just talking to Bronte. I got a little like decibel meter.
Yeah.
I'm going to go stand in the neighborhood.
Oh, yeah, when we run.
I'm going to go stand in the new neighborhood that they're building. And like a couple blocks away or a couple like houses down and see what it's like, because you're going to hear them.
Yeah.
All of Bradenton's going to know when you stomp that loud bell,
yes,
I think.
100%.
I think they're going to be well aware of that, which is just going to be the coolest thing ever. And I think, I hope the promotions on this event is up to what it deserves. And I hope that the people, like even my post the other day, I was like, I don't know if people really understand the gravity of what's coming this weekend.
It's huge.
And I don't know if I've seen enough people excited for what's coming, because it's not just, yes, pro mods are awesome. We've seen them 1,000 times. Yeah. We're talking different world. Yeah. 3 times the horsepower. Like it's going to be different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, U.S. Street Nationals just down here is huge. You know,
we just had Snowbirds. We got World Series of Pro Mod coming up.
And Turbo Todd ran, what, 514, 273 miles an hour? Mm-hmm. Well, you're going to see funny cars go 390s at 330 plus miles an hour.
In a shorter distance.
Not by much, but
a good,
320 feet.
Yeah. I mean, Turbo Todd, what he would be doing in that
1,000 feet would be, whatever.
Maybe 200, I don't know. Those turbo cars, that back end's pretty solid for them.
Yeah. That thing was fast. No two ways about it. But I'm just saying, if you put those two out there on the racetrack at the same time, people that haven't seen Nitro cars, they would be like, holy moly. Yeah. If they've seen Pro Mod, they 100% need to come see what a Nitro car is.
Yeah, and Pro Mod's fun because I love door cars. I do. It's
Me too.
Turbo Todd, love seeing that. That was so cool. Mark Mickey's new car is like a masterpiece to watch go down the track, and as it locks up and stuff. And seeing a turbo car drive away from like a blower car is pretty cool too, where you're like, they're side by side until about 300 feet, and then you're like, wait, there he comes. There's the turbos.
Exactly.
And that's why NHRA is a little hesitant to, because NHRA has their Pro Mod, and then Outlaw Pro Mod allows different turbo combinations, which makes it.
And no boost limits and all those sort of things. So
that's why people love it so much.
So I got to ask, me and my sisters, I mentioned this earlier about, I come and did the 2.4 hours with Cletus.
Yep.
And I was amazed at the houses being built. How long before it happens?
I think...
And I mean, it sucks. I'm not trying to make...
Of course. Of course. I mean, I think this is a conversation everybody's having. Is how long? I think 5 years, there's going to be a lot of complaining. Mm-hmm. And I think 8 years, there's no way that track's still operating the same. If the problem is, it could always operate, but it would get so gutted. Where like
times,
curfews and noise, and like even up in North Florida, they're talking about building a new 8th mile track, and I heard you have to have mufflers, and it's like, how are you gonna have a racetrack where somebody requires mufflers?
Yeah, coming in the gate already.
Yeah, I'm like, it's cool and all. Also, that track is crazy because he said it's going to take 6 months to build and cost $1.1 million, which I was like, that sounds very cheap and quick.
Yeah, I think that's just the actual racetrack itself.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know about any of this, but I would say 5 years seems reasonable, where it's going to be a lot of complaining and curfews start to really push.
Yeah. And I mean, I know Garrett and Victor have been adamant. They're just going to cash in and move somewhere a little further away or whatever. It's so frustrating. I know you went to the court hearing. It just is like, it's a waste of time, because eventually the money wins out. And I don't mean the money that Victor and Garrett can cash in on, the money of so many taxpayers complaining. And usually it's one or two, and then it just gets the whole neighborhood stirred up. And
yeah, and Garrett's, he's made his point pretty clear. He will he will move facilities if he has to, but he will not have a facility.
Right.
He will move into, like, it'll have to be a seamless transition.
Yeah.
Which is it's a good hope because, if you end up shutting down your facility, selling, and then trying to build, you're in a crazy years-long deal.
Well, I mean, it's Bandimere right now.
Yeah.
They were just, over the wintertime, they've been doing their, racer magazine deal, and everybody's like, why are you doing this? Well, they don't want to lose touch with their customer, but unfortunately, you lose a year momentum. Holy moly, look at what happened to the world after COVID. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody lost momentum.
I know. It completely changed racing in a lot of ways, and like a lot of events didn't host at all. I know World Cup, they didn't have World Cup for 1 year because of it.
Yeah.
TX2K 1 year in the middle of it, they said everybody's got to leave.
Yeah.
Like midway into the event because that was like March 15th.
We were set up at the Gators, like car out, awnings out, ready to go. When I was like, this is BS.
This is crazy. This doesn't make sense.
Yeah, phone calls and people coming by. It's like, we're not having the event. I'm like, you're crazy.
We're here.
We're here. Of course we're racing.
That probably cost a fortune.
Oh, it had to. Well, I know it cost us a lot of money.
That's what I mean. Like all the teams that like lost out on.
Yep. I will give NHRA huge props. They finished the sportsman. They went ahead and did the sportsman race because it was already underway.
Huh.
When they finished that, the pro teams we packed up and left. And I didn't believe none of it until, of course, everybody's on their phone. What is going on? But when I saw they canceled the NCAA tournament, I'm like, yep, we're not racing this weekend.
Yeah, that's a good telling sign when that kind of stuff gets canceled. Yeah. Even like to speak on the Gator Nationals a little bit, like they have filled that track.
Packed it.
Even I think last year was the biggest they've ever had.
Ever.
Which is a huge wind under the sails for drag racing to be like
50+ year event.
Yeah.
And drag racing's dying.
The line I saw to get in was insane. Like I could not believe how full it was. And I always talk about it. I'm like, well, what, like I would love to get a sample of like the fans. Are they older? Are they younger? Like what kind of fans are at all of these different events? And I don't know if NHRA walks around with clipboards and talks to people and gets that kind of stuff, but I'm sure they have good data on this stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what I worry about is the new blood, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Kind of covers back to Street Outlaws. I think that's definitely a younger crowd. The people coming to Cletus events, obvious younger crowd. I think, it's just people are consuming cars a different way. Mm-hmm. I don't know about you, but like when I was in high school, we went and hung out. It was a gas station parking lot or a car wash. We were in our hot rods and we went and hung out. Now the kids don't seem to do that, but at the same time, you got Blaine's therapy. The kid that was just on here, 16 years old, he's talking about putting SB2 in its sick week car, and he wants to
hear that.
He wants to row gears. So it's just different. It's consumed different. And I think the older I get, I may be a little bit weird that I follow, I follow your channel, I follow all the car stuff, but I'm so a car guy. I just think it's done differently. And old folks like me that are not following along, that's where I'm getting these comments. Y'all ruined drag racing going a quarter mile. Drag racing's dying. And yet I think NHRA, we had 22 events last year. I think they sold out 11 of them. Like, sold. How do you sell out a drag race?
Yeah.
How do you, that to me, that's impossible.
Yeah, it's a facility. We're not talking like a small little stadium. We're talking massive facilities.
Acreage, lots of it. I mean, Gainesville's huge.
It's so cool to see. And I think a lot of people in my bubble, I want to say, not Top Fuel, like small tire, think that NHRA is dying and isn't filling up seats. But then when you actually pay attention, somebody like Donald Long, who we talked about, he's made fun of those events all the time, but he knows they're filling up. Like, you can't hide that they're not filling up. And Victor and Wes know that, too. That's why there's an event in Bradenton that
is Top Fuel,
circumvents
which is basically an NHRA event.
Same with Pro Mod. That's why there's Outlaw Pro Mod. And they are trying to bank on that
gathering
same
some of that
fans.
audience. Yeah,
and it's
absolutely.
important to. It's also cool to do it outlaw.
Yeah.
There's something special about.
Oh yeah, just the word outlaw.
Yeah.
You know?
And I know you had exhaust issues this year, right? With what your
Talking about my
your zoomies, right?
that was funny cars.
Okay.
But in the same time frame, you know, I got DQ'd because we threw weight on the racetrack. I got disqualified from an event. Semifinal finish, you're out of here.
Just
no
because
points,
you
no
left
nothing.
some weight on
Because I left weight on the racetrack.
What kind of weight are we talking about? Like a little piece of lead?
It was actually a shot bag taped up like crazy to fit in where our weight goes.
Yeah.
You know, it was.
So they DQ'd you over that.
Over
and
that.
I know Funny Car was dealing with just something like exhaust.
Yep, exhaust. Yep. They have a rule how far back the headers can lay, pointing towards the back of the car, an angle, how wide they are, all this sort of thing. And of course, you know, the racer rumor. We all are good about talking about them and spreading them. You know, it was all these sudden rule violations become a big deal after the PRO event, the Superstar Shootout, come up. You
So
know.
people that were like, I'm going,
Yeah.
suddenly you're under a different microscope.
You're under a different microscope.
Huh. Oh, man,
Yeah.
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see why they would be a little unhappy with that. But then they have to also tech. So do you bring in NHRA tech guys, or do you have somebody like John Sears who techs all the other stuff that has to suddenly read a book that he doesn't?
This is going to blow you away. And it was, I mean, we appealed our disqualification. 100% we did wrong.
Yeah.
I don't even want to get into that whole thing.
Yeah, you were wrong, of course,
We were
but
wrong.
you should have been able to.
We felt the penalty was overly done. We got DQ'd from an entire event for one run. The funny cars, some pro stock cars, they got disqualified for a run. We lost an entire event. Knocked me out of the top 10, cost me, not me, well, partly me because I get part of it, but cost the team tens of thousands of dollars, not just for being in the top 10, but sponsor
unfair.
bonuses that are involved with if you finish inside the top 10. You know, every sponsor contract's got different incentives.
I'm sure you've dealt with enough of those.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Contracts and sponsors.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to add those incentives, you know, it's a big deal. You know,
yeah,
it
you want to
helps.
give your guys a bonus,
Yeah,
I'm sure. 'cause
absolutely.
If
Yeah.
they earn that bonus,
Yeah.
so they're taking away from families in your
Yeah.
team by doing that, which is
Yep.
it's tough to really be supportive of
Yeah.
when they do that.
Yep. Man, tech.
So tech, yeah.
Tech. This is what's unfreaking believable. We self-tech. I brought this up in our meetings when we were appealing our disqualification. I actually used Sick Week as an example. I said there'll be 350 cars. It's a big deal. They all line up. They go through tech. And I said, NHRA is the largest sanctioning body in the world, and we self-tech.
That doesn't even make sense to me.
It doesn't. Now,
That's
can
so
they
crazy.
Can they come spot check your car at any moment? Absolutely. Can they come take a part off your car? I've had it happen. Absolutely. Now they can do all of that, but we submit our tech card online, and
That's just
Now,
so
granted-
crazy.
yeah, it's unbelievable.
But if some new guy showed up,
Oh, yeah.
how would that, like, they
Yeah.
would probably be pretty
The-
scrutinizing
yeah,
of it.
the-
Like,
the-
you know, if I suddenly showed up in
With a top fuel car,
top
yeah.
fuel car with, you
Yeah.
know, my open trailer, my
Right.
40-foot open trailer.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever it would take
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
haul a top fuel, they'd probably be a little.
Oh, yeah.
a
Now,
little
I'm not
weary.
saying they don't do a good job, but to me, I just find that extremely.
Is there one guy that you can go to in tech? Like, is there like
There's a couple. They
okay,
have,
so there is like a top. It's not like by committee where there's going to be 5 different answers from people on something.
sometimes you will get those 5 different answers. I'll be
okay.
honest about that. But there is a final say-so. The guy who sent me an email 6 days after the event to tell me that I was fined $5,000 and disqualified from the event, he is the final say-so.
That sounds like it.
Yeah.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. But I don't want people to think it's just a free-for-all. It is not. Every time that I step out of the top fuel card in an NHRA event, there are normally a minimum of 2 NHRA tech officials taking a fuel sample out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
They're sending you across the scales, or maybe not. You don't know.
But what could you possibly do with fuel? You're already running
Well, we
the
are
baddest
limited,
of the bad fuel, aren't
but
you?
we're limited to 90% nitromethane. An extra 10% would be a lot of horsepower.
Yeah. Why limited to 90%? Just trying to limit horsepower?
Again, back to they don't really want us going over 330 miles an hour.
You'll figure it out.
Well, I mean, they kind of already are. I mean, they're going 335. You know, I'm trying to remember the record. Funny car's been 337. A top fuel car's been 338. You know, and so the 330 is really kind of their number. And occasionally, you know, we'll sneak by that. But the fuel thing was years ago. That was like a quick, easy, let's remove some power from these things. And again, the crew chiefs just figure it out.
Tame them down a little. But then what's the 10% that you put in there?
Alcohol, methanol, whatever.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was like a gasoline-based fuel or something like that.
Just alcohol.
Some people don't like alcohol very much. They prefer like a Q16 or something.
Right. No, it's 90% nitromethane, 10% methanol.
That's interesting. So how have you been able to kind of stay on the same course for so long? Because like I'm talking about a little bit burnout and like people like to change and do different things, you know. I feel like what you're doing does have more longevity for the most part, but some people like to hop around. They like to change things. Like we're talking about Laughlin or even like Antron, like trying different things. Like what do you think has attested to that?
Oh man, I started this whole path, to be totally honest, because I love going fast. When my life story ended up being able to get in a top fuel car and get my license, like I never thought in a million years I would win, you know, 6 IHRA world championships and all the races I've won, all that. All I was thinking about initially was I want to know what it feels like to drive one of those cars. And I loved it so much. Then it kind of became, how can I keep doing this?
Yeah.
You know, I don't come from a wealthy family at all. I mean, like my parents owned a little tiny grocery store.
So you drove a forklift for
and
11 years.
I drove a forklift for 11 years at a Kroger food warehouse, you know, and I just love it. I love the speed. I love the G-forces, the adrenaline of all of that. And, you know, do I do other things? Sure. You know, I do. Like I say, we built a drag and drive car. I do, you know, I go to some of the local tracks when I can, you know, but I do 100% as much as possible stay focused on making myself better as a top fuel driver.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the harder I work at it because I know I have to.
Yeah.
Like over the last 5-7 years, I now work out. I never did that when I was young. You know, I didn't.
Interesting, because I've heard of that in a lot of different motorsports where
Yeah.
people need to make sure that their core is strong in
Yeah.
their neck.
Yeah.
And I've heard, and especially if you get into a crash, you want to make sure that
Yep.
somebody like Stevie Fast is going through neck issues right now that keep him out of his car.
Absolutely. You know, so for me, my workouts, I work with 2 young doctors. They're awesome. They come to the races. Anyway, it's not about making me look like Matt Hagan. And I'm not going to say anything bad about Matt Hagan because he could obviously just squish
You're not going
me.
to suddenly, be 350 pounds, all muscle.
Right. My workouts are just about it being, you know, stronger and limber, you know, just in case you crash. The more flexible you are, that's the better off you are in a crash. That's why typically drunk people don't get hurt when they crash, is because they're very limber.
Yeah, I know. Everybody knows Garza. He crashes more than anybody I know.
Yeah, and he's always okay.
Yeah, he's always fine. He bounces back. So you're just constantly working on being a better driver has pushed you to that. And do you think having the team obviously helps push that too? Because once you kind of add a business behind it, now you're like, well, I got to keep the business rolling as well.
And I've never owned the car, ever. A lot of people think that I have. I've always been a hired driver, but my roles have changed over the years. I've went from running day-to-day operations, like literally paying the employees, not my money, but literally running the entire operation, to now the team is owned by a guy named Rick Ware. He owns 2 NASCARs. He has an IndyCar team. You know, it's evolved in such a way that it's a running joke with Donna Tracy Lee, my sister's my wife, a bunch of my friends. I'm a prima donna helmet toter. I fly in, hop in the car, and that's what I do. So if you're going to be that guy, you better be pretty dang good at it.
Yeah, that's true. Because you don't, you can technically, I guess, be fired.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
I know it's not common to.
No, it is if you're not bringing something else to the program.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I bring some of the sponsors. I help maintain all the sponsors.
I mean, you're the marketing driving force, of course. I mean, you are,
I'm the
in
face
my opinion,
of
the most well-known top fuel driver because of your own single-handed push in marketing and YouTube and social media. And it is honestly a great thing to watch, and I think other teams really need to be paying attention to what you do. It's unreal what you do, man. Yeah. I love it. I love seeing people actually use the social media the way that it should be. Yeah,
the whole YouTube thing's funny. I didn't mean for that to happen, and now I can't stop now. It's
I'm sure if you took a week off or 2 weeks of no videos, 3 weeks, people would be busting down your door. Where the heck did you go?
Right.
Because that's how it works. People start getting worried. They start calling up your cousin or something,
what's going on? Yeah. But that happened during COVID. Bored. Yeah. Just bored. If you go back, when was that? 2020? Whenever the heck it was.
Yeah, it was the last 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. I'm bored out of my mind, and the videos were horrible, and I didn't know what I was doing. But anyway, kind of what we were talking about is me being the prima donna helmet toter guy. Yeah. I still go to the shop. I mean, you can see I got calluses on my hand. I was just there. I still love being a part of it, and I'm not just the stand at the back of the trailer and sign autographs.
Well, you have the knowledge of the car where I'm sure a lot of drivers don't, not to take anything away from them, but they don't have to.
They don't have to. They've got people for that.
Yeah, and their argument could probably be made they shouldn't worry about the clutch. No. They should just drive the car.
Yeah. 100%. I can give some great examples of the mechanic in me gets in the way sometimes.
You overthink things?
Well, I know too much. I know this don't sound right. I know that pressure's not right. To where, some of the kids that I'm racing against, the thing could be horrible, and they're still going to stomp on the loud pedal because they don't do anything but hit the gas.
You got to drive the car. And sometimes that's all it takes is to, even if it's a crap pass, sometimes you just got to make that pass and get to the finish line and you'll win it. Yep. I mean, I've seen that a million times in drag racing.
Yeah. I mean, I've been fortunate to have won some of those crazy runs like that, but, there's a lot of times where you need to do nothing but drive the car to where the guy that's been involved with paying the bills, again, back to when I ran the team, I know what everything costs, and I know the owner's billfold is attached to my right foot. And I've not, always been in a position to where I could just blow the thing up. And I drive like somebody else's while it's attached to my foot.
That could also be dangerous too, though, because it makes you naturally hesitant almost in a way, where the driver that's prepared to blow that thing up every pass, like a Cletus McFarlane,
right,
who's prepared to blow that thing up any pass he needs to, is going to be very successful
until they go broke.
A balance.
Until they go broke.
Yes.
I have been in situations to where if we blew the thing up, we don't have enough parts to go make the next run.
Yeah.
And then at that point, the sponsors you have, how come you didn't make the next run? How come you weren't at the next race? It's like, well, I was an idiot and I drove it like an idiot and I blew up all the motors we have and we're not going. Oh, you're not going? Guess what? We're not sending you a check this month.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I've heard some back and forth on this too, is when a sponsor sponsors you, are they sponsoring an athlete, driver, or are they sponsoring a car that goes down the track? Because do they care who's driving it, or do they care about the car going down the track?
Every sponsor in every situation has its own set of parameters, rules, whatever. I mean, in my case, I've been with Parts Plus. I think this is the 13th year. Mm-hmm. So technically, you could say they're sponsoring me, but without the top fuel car, without showing up at those races, if I'm not at a race, they can't bring their customers out. They can't bring their employees that work in the area to the event. So they're sponsoring both in that case.
Oh, so they like to do that too as like a event.
Yeah, it's an event. 100% is the reason they do it.
That's pretty smart on their part. So they use it as like a training type of, or not training, but like promotional event for their
events,
good employees.
100% for their best employees, best customers, you know. And so every situation's different. I have sponsors that are with me no matter what I'm doing, you know. Perfect example. I'm wearing CRC on my shirt right now.
Oh, yeah. I drink that stuff.
Yes.
Man.
I love these people. So
freaking Brake Clean.
Brake Clean is amazing.
They need to rebrand that stuff as just like the all-purpose.
All-purpose everything. Hand cleaner.
Yeah, like they need to rebrand it at some point.
Killer. You know, it does everything. You know,
starting fluid.
Flame torch, you know, starting fluid. But I mean, them for an example, they love my YouTube channel. They love it. I mean, they've sponsored the Top Fuel Car from the day I signed with Parts Plus. They've been part of the program, and I met them through Parts Plus. And as the whole YouTube thing got going for me, you know, they're like, "Man, God, it's a long story, Cooper. How long have we been on? It's a good story.
We'll go as long as you'll hang out with me."
All right, so I'm gonna tell this story because it's near and dear to me. So I'm at a big Parts Plus event during the SEMA show. So Parts Plus brings a lot of their vendors, hundreds of vendors. There's typically 1,500 people at this event. It's a private event, and obviously it takes a large venue.
Yeah.
But they bring in all the vendors, customers, blah, blah, blah. It's a huge event. So I'm there, you know, basically shaking hands and grinning and just working the room. You know, that's part of my job. All these people
parade you around a little bit.
I parade myself around. I'll tell the truth. There's nobody moving me around, but I know all these companies like CRC are who support the race car.
Yeah, that's what they want.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
So it was getting towards the end of this event, and I don't know if I'm not going to say his name because I don't want people to blow him up asking for sponsorship, but a guy high up at CRC, dear friend, he might have had a few drinks. He's bending the elbow, you know, and we're at one of those little like 3-person tables that they don't have chairs. You're just standing at, you know, how these party event things are, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, when are you and Lutz ever going to finish that truck?" So this truck that I'm talking about was my son's truck that had been at Jeff's for years.
Now Dentley, right?
Dentley. Yes, which is a 4-door 2004 model Dodge truck that belonged to my son that we lost in a motorcycle accident. And so this truck's near and dear to my whole family.
Yep. Barbecue sauce color.
It's flat black.
Oh, yeah. Flat black. Yeah.
Flat black.
I was thinking it was that.
You're thinking of my Dakota.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
I hate the flat black. But anyway, that's another story. Yeah. So it's a buddy deal. Me and Jeff are slowly, and Jeffrey, are slowly turning this truck into a drag and drive kind of thing. It got 100% out of control. Like, and we'll talk about the truck in a minute. But so this guy, I almost said his name, he's like, "When are you ever going to get that thing done?" I'm like, "Man, I don't know. You know, it's just me and Jeff. And when I can, I send some money, you know, and I buy a part here and there." And he's like, "I want it in my booth next year here at the show." I'm like, "I don't know, man. I can't make that promise. You know, I don't want to promise nothing."
That's a big promise.
Big promise, because we had already been working on it 3.5 years at that point. You know, it's one of those forever long-term projects that we all get.
Yeah, my neighbor's got more than me.
Is that the neighbor with the Cadillac in the yard?
Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah, I like that he has more projects.
Yes. So long story short, at the prompting of CRC and them liking my YouTube channel, they helped me finish the project. And it got done, and it was at SEMA show, not this past year, the year before. And so that's how Dentley got finished. And the crazy part is so we did all that on YouTube, Jeff's channel, my channel.
Yeah.
And the moment we unloaded the truck and we're there, they're like, "We want to do it again." We're like, "Well, man, that project took us 4.5 years, you know?" And they're like, "We don't care. It's the coolest social media thing we've ever done." And Dentley was kind of special, being that it was my son's truck,
yeah,
obviously.
It has a lot attached to it.
A lot attached to it. And so we're like, "We don't know." Long story short, what they've done, we did a 2006 Pontiac GTO this past year that's going to go to Millican auction in May. And all the money is going to scholarship funds for kids in tech schools, which is awesome.
Oh, that's
so me
cool.
and Jeff spent a year working on this car. And we're doing it again we're working on one right now, a 57 Chevrolet for the subs. Anyway.
Lutz loves those.
Lutz loves them. And we are going to make people so mad. The video's coming up in a couple weeks of what we're doing to this car.
I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the whole plan because I love seeing a charity.
Oh.
And they're so exciting when you watch a charity car roll through Millican because
I've never been to a Millican.
They just go up. Like the price ends up going up pretty good.
I don't know if you've seen that car, the GTO. It's unbelievable.
I haven't seen it in person, but I've seen enough footage of it.
1,350 mile 2006 model. You know, it's a brand new car. Anyway, back to what we were talking about, the sponsors. And so the CRC, just in particular that we were talking about, they went from being a race car sponsor through Parts Plus into a me and a race car sponsor. You know, so they care about everything that I'm doing off the track as well. And I've got others, you know, that's just like the biggest example that they care about everything I'm doing, period.
Well, because you can provide sponsors off-track exposure where other people only rely on the next round.
Yes.
You'll only see this car if it makes the next round, which is a hard spot for a sponsor to be in.
Yeah.
But then providing a different level and then working on cool projects is a really awesome way. I actually think more and more companies are going to start doing their own stuff. Like they'll take somebody like you and they'll have you make videos on their own channel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm seeing that more and more lately with
Emily
like
Reeves,
TV shows.
Emily Reeves does that.
Yep.
Very successful YouTube channel. Her and her husband, you know, the Flying Sparks Garage, you know, she does stuff with Peak.
Yeah.
You know.
On Peak's channel.
Peak's channel.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's becoming more and more common. They'll put, like, they're putting big budgets into this stuff now, too, like full TV show production.
Garage, same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say who he does it with because that's against Parts Plus. But
Yeah. He does a similar deal.
Yeah.
And then even lately, I saw there's a local girl, Riley Rebuilds, who does carburetors down here.
So she works with Edelbrock, which is one of my sponsors that also... Same deal. We talked about CRC. I do the exact same thing with Edelbrock and Comp Cams.
Yeah. I know Edelbrock just moved out by you, right?
Yeah.
They just added a whole facility out there.
Yep.
And Edelbrock's been around for freaking
since the beginning of hot rods.
Like.
Yeah. Another really cool thing that happened last year. So Comp Cams got to be the first sponsor I've ever had from the day I started bracket racing. And I'm not saying they wrote me checks. I'm not saying that, but like I got a discount, you know, and they're in Memphis and I'm an hour out of Memphis. And anyway, long story short, you know, we did a Comp Cam Edelbrock car at St. Louis last year and we had a lot of people from Edelbrock and Comp Cams there. And dang if we didn't win that one too. So that was pretty cool.
That's
you know,
special.
when you can,
I'm sure they feel pretty good about that. They get to sit up in their box and hang out. And, you know, that's what's nice about Gainesville. They got those nice boxes up there for the sponsors. I
got to tell the truth. Edelbrock Comp guys, they're car guys. They weren't in the air condition. They were down there wanting to work on the car. And my guys are like, we got this, you know.
Yeah. Back it up, please.
But Riley's Rebuild, good example. I mean, they're kind of, I think they may be her biggest sponsor deal because she's big on the Edelbrock carburetor rebuilds deal.
Big on the carburetor stuff. Completely, I have no idea. You put a carburetor in front of me, I'm not doing much to it. But
I think she's going to be here at the event this weekend, actually.
They're local to here, her and her dad. And I don't watch everything that they do, but I like their whole push to carburetors and younger people and stuff like that. So
she just started college, but I'm pretty sure she's coming out this weekend. That's pretty cool.
It's a cool deal. I really think we should call your other sponsor. We could cut it out. I could cut it out if he says to, but I really think it would be special.
I don't know. I mean, it's really up to him. That's not a. So I don't know how much of this you're going to put in there, but we got something really cool going for this coming weekend that nobody knows about yet.
There's some really cool stuff for sure, and I'm.
It's going to break the internet.
Yeah,
it's going to break the internet.
On that. I can't wait till you do a drag and drive.
Man,
next sick week.
So,
or like
I didn't really finish that. So,
yeah,
Jeff wanted me to to come do it indently because he was bringing Mad Max out. Timing-wise, I knew it was going to be tough. Tom Bailey called. He wanted me to be part of the live feed, like fly in, come do the live feed, like the guy in the pit reporter, basically, and I was like,
I think it'd be too much if you were a pit reporter. Everybody'd be starstruck. They'd be asking you questions.
Oh, I don't know about that.
You'd walk up and be like, hey, I want to talk about your car. No, I want to talk to you.
So I can tell you how badly I want to do it and how much I follow along. So I'm driving down here. I pull in the parking lot at South Georgia Motorsports Park, 40-foot motorhome, 24-foot trailer behind me. I make a loop through the parking lot, pull off to the side, and it was just complete weird timing. Jeff had just made a run and was on the return road. Jamie from PFI Speed, which I connected those guys. Brent and Jamie helped Jeff some with tuning. Mm-hmm. So he's on his little scooter thing riding by. So I talked to Zach and Ty. For whatever reason, they were in the parking lot. I have no idea. I talked to Jamie. Jeff was mad as a wet hen, and all I got was a thumb out the window hole for where you open and close the door. I got a thumb. I got back in my motorhome after I walked the dogs and drove on down here. Saw Kevin on the return road, but he didn't see me.
Yeah.
He didn't have I was in my motorhome pulling out. But literally made a loop through the parking lot just to say I went to sick week.
Just had to do it.
I had to do it.
I don't blame you. I was talking with Garrett this morning because he flew up there.
Yeah.
And he had an open seat. And I was like, no, I'm not doing it because I can't just go. I wanted to go, but I was like, nah, I can't fly up there for the day. It just didn't feel right.
Well, he's back already because I saw the plane in the driveway.
He flies around a lot. It's a quick flight for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to be a little ways, though. That's probably, an hour or more? Because that's, 200?
About. Headwind will get you, too, depending on.
How far is that to
there? It's like a 3-hour drive.
Yeah.
But
I know it's a pretty good ride.
It's a rough drive.
It's a couple hundred miles at least.
I did it for sick week, and it was rough.
Yeah.
Just driving
and you
up
were
there.
by yourself, too, right?
Yeah, I did it by myself one year, and then one year I did it 20% was by myself, and then I picked up my hitchhiker, I guess, in Bradenton. So then we did
was
the
that
rest
sketchy
of it.
vert?
Yeah,
yeah,
sketchy.
Yeah.
Yep. So me and him did a bunch of it together. Who would you take with you? Who would you be your co-pilot?
Oh man, so
Swing the dogs.
They're too wild. Y'all have seen videos if you.
I know
follow
you got a crew chief, but he might be a little high level for a drag and drive.
So here's the truth. Last year I paid my entry, whatever it is, a few $100. I paid it. People can say whatever. Tom Bailey, there is no favoritism. You get on the list, you pay your money, blah blah blah, whatever. So I have 4 seats. Dentley's a 4-door truck. It's got 4 seats. It's got racing seats all 4 corners, seat belts in all 4 corners,
awesome.
and air conditioning, power steering, by the way, and power windows.
I feel bad with that.
So I had Mike Cotton and David Newbern were coming with me last year. And
That's a good group, especially if you got to work on something.
Yeah, you got Newbern. Newbern's a go-getter.
Under there,
oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, he's a go-getter.
Yeah, I'd make him do it for sure.
Cotton's just fun for the entertainment.
Yeah, that's a fun group, and they know the drag and drive pain pretty well with Finnegan.
Oh yeah,
Finnegan's gone through more pain on a drag and drive than anyone, I think.
I mean, truthfully, the ideal situation would be, Jeffrey, because Jeffrey had more to do with building that truck than Jeff or I did.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Jeff get all the credit and the glory, whatever, because we're the driver guys. But Jeffrey Lutz built that truck. Jeffrey, and I say this, I've said it on camera, and I'm saying it right here. Jeffrey is more talented than Jeff. He is an incredible, talented young man.
Yeah,
he's unbelievable.
I think I've heard Lutz kind of.
Oh, he gives in. He's proud. He's a proud daddy.
Yeah, I mean, Jeffrey seems like he does the chassis work, the tuning.
He does,
and Jeff drives it.
And
he builds the engines.
Yep. Now Jeff is an OG, can get in there and get after it, and make it happen. Working with those guys is so fun. I go up there a lot. Again, we do these CRC projects, and whatever. We're on our 3rd build, so I go up there as often as I can. But working with them sometimes is just it's hilarious because they're both so talented. Occasionally it's a little bit OCC, like American Chopper OCC.
Yeah.
Like, nope, I'm doing it this way. No, we're doing it this way. You know, and it's funny to listen to them.
Throw a chair every now and then.
Yeah, maybe not that bad. I don't want people to think that.
If it was on video, you know, then you just do it for the video type of stuff, the clickbait.
Exactly.
You know how that is with YouTube. You got to clickbait a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got connected up with, obviously, Brent at PFI Speed and KSR and all those guys. So you're deep into the YouTube automotive world, I think, at this point.
And I kind of was, you know, a stalker a bit in that way. Loved Brent, PFI Speed. I literally sent him an email. I ordered a shirt or something, maybe a decal. And I sent an email on Christmas, and he read it. And he said he never checks his email. Yeah. You know, it's Jamie's wife that does all that stuff. And that was how we met, was through email. You know, I'm like,
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Brent, he's such a positive guy in the car world, man. And a guy that's also dealt with so much just stupid things happening to him here and there, and just, you know, and now they're losing their home track. Hopefully he makes his home track Bradenton in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Maybe I've been trying.
I would move. Beautiful up there, but I hate the cold and the snow.
Booster Boys did it. Kyle Booster Boys moved down here, and I know it's helped his content a lot, and trying to get Brent to do the same thing. Come on down, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not in the snow country like they are, but so I have to do a report for a lot of my sponsors, you know, social media report or whatever. What did you do this past month? And December sucks for me because people want to see race car stuff. I don't have race car stuff in December, you know.
Yeah, there's definitely not a whole lot of racing going on in December.
Tennessee.
But, you know, if you ever want to leave a car down this way, you could do some, maybe Dentley could fit in a Pro Mod class, right?
Yeah.
Got a big tire on it.
Yeah, it's just not going to be fast enough. Everybody thinks it's going to be so fast. Yeah.
That's fine.
And we probably built that thing in such a way it's not going to fit any class properly. It's got giant tires. It's got tons of roll cage. And I've not been able to find out what it weighs because it weighs more than 5,000 pounds.
Oh. Wow. I mean, I guess you did say power steering, power windows,
air conditioning. Yeah.
What's the engine combo in that thing?
It is a Gen 3 Hemi. It's 426 cubic inches, so I can say I got a 426 Hemi. Kind of fits the Nitro top fuel guy. You know, twin turbos are little 62 precisions on there. Turbo 400, gear vendor.
That's
4-link.
That thing's so freaking cool, man.
Yeah, it's a big old sled. I've drove it a lot. It just hadn't been to the racetrack yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Well, man, I don't want to take up too much of your time. How should we wrap this up? Who do you want to thank? Where should people follow you? What should we? Where do we even go from here? Obviously, I would love to have you on again. The seat is always open. I know
we have not even scratched the surface, dude.
We're just getting into it. I try to make these not too long on people, make it a little more consumable.
Yeah.
Maybe maybe sometime this week we can get Jeff on here.
Yeah, I would love to.
I got 4 seats too. I mean, we could put Jeffrey if he's down here. You know. It'd be a fun time, but how can they find you at?
Man, everything's just my name, you know, and we already covered it. If you see it with my name, it's me. It's
going to be in the description of the video, of course. I didn't know if there's anywhere else you want to push people to, you know, if there's any website or anything, or just YouTube, and they'll find it all.
Yep. My name and, you know, Rick Ware Racing. That's the 2 places, everything. And, man, I love the show. I've already told you that. I listen to everything.
I appreciate you.
It's been really a lot of the stuff is people I didn't even know. And now that's what's so great about podcasts. I'm a huge podcast guy. Love listening, you know, and when I see one that's 3 hours, I don't get mad. I'm like, hey, that's, 150 miles, 170 miles, whatever it is, you know, however fast the motorhome will go. But I appreciate you having me on.
Dude, I love it, man. This was so much fun. I hope to have you back. Guys, come out this weekend to Bradenton if you're within 1,000 miles, start driving. You know, there's still time. This is coming out Monday. There's still time. His car is going to look awesome this weekend.
We teased y'all, and maybe we make that phone call. I don't know. It's not up to me.
Yeah, I think
we have a huge surprise.
Yes, awesome surprise. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep it saucy. We'll see you next time.
And there goes the music.